This is Dawn from Plainfield, and this episode is brought to you by Ivy Envy Patreon supporters like me. If you love the Cubs, beer, strong marginal analysis, internet muscle flexes, and the occasional chicken, this is the podcast for you. Go Cubs!
The 2015 season is here, and this week we are doing our annual season prediction episode, and listeners have sent us a slew of Cubs stats to predict. It's April 3rd, 2015, and you're listening to the 305th episode of the Ivy Envy podcast. Hi, and thanks for downloading this week's episode of the IVMV podcast. I am one of your co-hosts. My name is Corey, and I am joined through a Google Plus Hangout with the other two hosts of this podcast.
Hello, it's Andy. And this is Kurt.
We typically record these episodes on Sunday evenings and broadcast them live, but our schedule here over the next few weeks is a little bit wonky. The Cubs, or the Sunday night is opening night, so the Cubs are playing. And we would rather watch the Cubs and Cardinals game rather than sit behind microphones. And then next Sunday I will be in Las Vegas for New Media Expo and the Podcast Awards. IVMV is one of the 10 finalists in the sports category in the Podcast Awards this year. We're up against ESPN, Dan Patrick, and some professional wrestler podcasts, and among others. And I will be there to represent us in the off chance that their counting methods have failed them and we beat Dan Patrick. But thanks to all of you that supported us in the nomination and voting period for the Podcast Awards. It's pretty cool that we've been finalists 2 years in a row, and I think that it says more about all of you than it does us. So let's get some housekeeping stuff out of the way. Andy, you and I will be starting up the midweek episode of IVNV here this first week in the Cubs season.
Yeah, as we've talked about before, as things are ramping up here with the Cubs, we're expecting the team to be more and more competitive over the next few years, and therefore we're going to have more and more to talk about. Already our episodes were fairly long, just having one weekly episode, so we're getting that second episode started up this Wednesday, and we'll already have 3 games to talk about because Wednesday's a day game. And so look for that. I think it'll be posted on Thursday. Is that right, Corey?
Yeah, it'll be just like our normal podcast. You know, I try to get them posted an hour or two after we're done recording. So this will go up late Wednesday night, so it'll be ready for your commute to work on Thursday.
But yeah, so as we've mentioned before too, though, we have some great listeners who have supported us through Patreon, and so we want to get some more things going and provide more content for people. So that's the goal, is to break that one long episode into 2 decently, packed episodes full of, with content-wise, but make it just a slightly shorter episode. So
right, and we'll probably be spending a little bit more time on actually what's happening in these games. When we only do one episode a week, by Sunday, we're not going to talk about things that happened on Monday or Tuesday just because it's already outdated, and so this will help keep everything a little bit more fresh, I think, too.
That's going to be weird, actually, talking about specific game events.
Because we have not done that in 6 years.
Since it wasn't much worth talking about. I mean, we kind of focused on big picture things, the minors, and now we're actually going to feel inclined to look at and break down game performances and things that happen.
Yeah, it's really
the week.
Uncharted waters for this podcast, just because there hasn't been a need or desire to. So it'll be kind of nice, and this should most of the time kind of fall in between series, that midweek episode. So we'll basically on each episode we'll have a one series to talk about, and then also starting on Monday will be the Daily Northside Recap podcast. This is a podcast that's part of IVMV.com, but separate. It's a separate podcast from this one. It will be a daily Monday through Friday podcast that comes out first thing in the morning and will recap the previous day's games in the Cubs organization, from the Cubs down through the system, the Iowa Cubs, Tennessee Smokies, Myrtle Beach Pelicans, and the South Bend Cubs. You can listen through whatever podcast app or directory you use to listen to podcasts. Just search for Daily Northside Recap. And you can also listen at dailynorthsiderecap.com, which just points you to that page on our website. Or you can get to it from the main page of ivnb.com. And then on that page, there's a player to listen to the episodes, and then links to the show in iTunes and Stitcher. While I say that they're coming,
I was thinking you just have the Cubs to talk about for longer than I realized, but I see that South Bend already has a game on Tuesday the 7th. So.
Well, they're playing Notre Dame.
Oh.
Oh boy, so you're going to spend, it's meant to be a 5-minute episode, but that'll be like a 45-minute episode.
You know I'm going to end up talking about Brady Quinn. No, actually what I'm going to do is I think all the minor league games start on Thursday. So I won't really have any minor league games to talk about until Friday morning. So what I'll do the first for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday and Thursday is go over the rosters. For on Monday I'll probably do the Iowa Cubs, go over that roster, and then Tuesday go over Tennessee Smokies. So while I won't have actual games to talk about, I will talk about who's on the roster and maybe kind of what we can expect from that team over the course of the year, what players might make appearances there. And while I have said that they'll come out early in the morning, I'll go ahead and say right now, the Monday morning one will not come out early in the morning because we're going to be drinking at Duffy's on Sunday. And so I'm not recording it Sunday night, and I probably won't get up real early on Monday morning. So look for that one like mid-morning. What's that?
You taking the day off?
Yeah, I don't work on Monday, so so that one won't come out first thing, but pretty much from there on, I'm going to record them the night before, so they'll get posted late at night, so they'll be there in the morning. And then we do have some bad news. The IVMB app that we've been talking about will probably not be ready by opening day. And by probably, I mean you can pretty much bet on it that it will not be ready by opening day. We left Crane Kenny in charge. And we thought he could get this thing launched by opening day, but it's just not ready.
Yeah,
we'll
he wasn't
put a tarp over it
with the returns and the revenue and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah. And then it snowed.
Yeah.
Just buried it.
So we did kind of encounter a few bumps in the road with this app. I think everything's straightened out right now. There was a mistake made, not necessarily on our end, but I'm glad that I caught it because I would not have been happy if that mistake got through. So, and it probably would have been a much bigger mess for us to clean up. So I can't even predict when this app will be done. I'm hoping in the next few weeks, but it will be worth it, and it will be better, much better than if I had not caught that mistake.
It would have been like red and Cardinals.
No, the
related.
problem. No.
Terrible.
Okay, well, yeah, I guess the three of us haven't even talked about it. Basically, what happened was they thought I was applying for an app that is inside of their app. So if you would search for us in iTunes, we wouldn't even show up, or in the App Store, it wouldn't show up. You would have to subscribe, download our app through their app, and that's not what I want. I want a standalone app for IVMB. So I'm really glad I caught that, and it's worth waiting a couple weeks to get it right. And we have T-shirts, and there's an opening night sale that will last through the first series. Use the coupon code 2015 to get 20% off IVMB T-shirts, and you can go to ivmb.com/store. So before we get started with these over/under predictions and everything, I believe at least two of us, maybe three of us, are drinking beer delivered to us at spring training by Chris from Temecula.
Just two of us.
Two of us.
Not Andrew.
Kurt, would you like to share what you're drinking?
Yes, I have a beer from the brewery, which is in Orange County, California, and it's called Mischief. delicious. It's a Belgian style ale, golden and hoppy, and it is delicious. So, thank you, Chris.
Yeah, I'm holding it up here, Alpine Beer Company Nelson. And it
Is
is
that an IPA?
it is an IPA, and it is really, really good. I like it a lot. And it's from Alpine, California. And the label says, drink Alpine Ale or go to bed.
That about sums up our lives.
Yeah.
I have already gone through all the beer that Chris gave me.
Look in the first day.
I think this is the first one I opened.
Surprise,
Is it?
surprise.
Oh, this is my last one. So
I don't think so, Corey, because you
Did we drink one?
tweeted that Heart of Dark. I forget what that other one you had was, but
Maybe I did drink one other one.
Um,
oh, yeah, I think I shared it with Bob when he was out here.
right. I'm drinking a Great River Milk Stout right now, but I have this bottle called Fat Pug Milk Stout on deck.
Hmm.
So it looks kind of interesting. It's from Mercenary Brewing Company in Chicago.
cool.
Okay, so let's jump on in. Every season we start things off by making some Cubs season predictions. And then we look at how we did at the end of the season. We ask listeners to send these topics to us, and we have a lot to get through. Most of these are over/under, predictions, I guess. And if you're not a gambler, the idea is that we have to predict whether the final number will be over or under that set number. I assume most people know what that means, but as I was thinking about it today, I thought, well, maybe some people aren't familiar with that. So that's what it is. So let's start off with the topic that will probably rule 2015, and that is Kris Bryant. So we'll start things off. Scott says, over under how many times Bryant and service time are mentioned Sunday night. So that's the opening night, Sunday night broadcast. And he sets the over under at 5.5. 5.5. So what do you guys think?
Over.
Yeah, I think over too. They're gonna beat that to death.
Yeah. Keep in mind too. It's an ESPN broadcast. Boy, we might see 15.
Well, I'm also predicting over. The only reason I think it could be under is because you'll just have to count it as one mention because that's all they're going to talk about. So I guess
that's gonna be the hard part is noting when a break in the mentions stops.
Right.
And
I almost feel like
starts.
I feel like commercial breaks in between innings shouldn't count as like separate things if they just continue the conversation. But I think if you work or are friends or God forbid married to a Cardinals fan, that broadcast will infuriate the best fans in baseball because
will be the best part of it.
Right, because here they are. They're the kings of the Central Division. Damn near a dynasty, and ESPN is going to be swinging from the Cubs' nuts all night long.
It's so good.
I'm sure the incomplete
For a guy that's not even there.
I'm sure the incomplete Wrigley Field will sort of divert their attention from time to time.
Yeah, I think they'll take their knocks for not having that ballpark ready, but I think guys, ESPN will be very high on the front office and what's going on with the Cubs. Yeah. And if the Cubs happen to play really well in that game and say get up by 4 or 5 runs, oh my God, it's going to be
jackals swarming a carcass.
Oh man. Yeah, if they've got to fill time, we're in trouble.
So, I think it will. That is all that will be discussed. ESPN loves their storylines, and they only really broadcast games where they know there will be the easy storylines. Okay, so staying on Kris Bryant, Jeremy says, contributor to the website and podcast, Jeremy says, how many days until Bryant is up? And then Mike, who is at Trekkie Bogle on Twitter, says, over under on number of days after the extra year of team control date kicks in for Kris Bryant that he gets called up. And then Justin says over under on days Bryant sits in the minors after day 11. So these are all kind of asking the same question. That question is, when is Chris Bryant coming up? So let's, rather than doing like over and under on days, because I think that could be a little bit tricky, let's just pick a date for the Chris Bryant call-up.
All right. I'm going to pick Monday, the 20th of April. The Cubs start a series in Pittsburgh against the Pirates, and I think given their track record of bringing up these high-impact prospects during away games, I think that will happen with Bryant as well. So I think April 20th, 420.
I don't know.
I think that's too close after the cutoff
do
date,
too.
which I think is what, the 15th or somewhere
I
in
think
there.
it's like the 17th or 18th.
Is it? But
I think it's
that's-
the 18th. I don't know.
I think that's too close. It sort of tips their hand on like, yeah, we were definitely keeping him down for.
But do they care if they tip their hand? I mean,
well, I just think
they're working within the rules, you know.
I think they still, yeah, they are definitely within the rules, but I think they don't want to give MLB PA any more ammunition to try to fight them on it.
I agree.
So I'm actually, and I'm recognizing this is a bit of a weird prediction, but I'm going May 22nd in Arizona versus the Diamondbacks. And the reason I say I know that's weird is, you know, you call them up out in Arizona just to fly back to Chicago the following Monday, but the series on the road before that is the Padres, and I don't think you start them in San Diego, even though it is his, you know, hometown, you know, San Diego University. But I don't think you want him hitting out there in his first games, if that matters, I guess. So I'm going, May 22nd.
I was completely set on my date, and then I started to look at what would be my second pick, and then my second pick started looking better. So now that's what I'm going with. So I'm going to go with May 4th versus the Cardinals, and that would be the first of two road series in a row, St. Louis and Milwaukee. So I was thinking, yeah, they usually like to kind of bring him up in a hitters-friendly ballpark, which Busch is somewhat, I guess, but I kind of like the idea of bringing him up against two divisional teams. I think that would make things kind of exciting. I don't know. My other pick, the one that I was going with first, is kind of close to Kurt's. I was thinking May 19th, that series in San Diego, and they like to bring up prospects on the road.
The off day right before it.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking was, San Diego is obviously not a hitter's ballpark. I think they tend to bring players up in a hitter's ballpark. But that's because that series is followed with another road series in Phoenix, and then it's followed by two home series against the Nationals, who probably the preseason favorite to win the World Series, and then the Royals, who were in the World Series last year. I thought, both of those, I don't know. Those are my, I guess, May 19th or May 4th. I can't really decide.
Yeah, I think he'll be up in April. I think that they, in spite of the chance of the possibility of riling up the MLBPA, I think he'll come up in late April.
I don't think so, because was it the MLBPA that basically said, or was it Major League Baseball? Who said like a week or two ago, like, yeah, we're watching this situation?
Well, the MLPA is already like basically threatened to pursue all things through.
Right.
Well, and they
even though he's not even
things, litigation.
Even though he's not even a union.
He's not a member of the MLB, and typically they don't care about them. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I think Andy's a little bit right. Like, it really doesn't matter what they do. Like, the rules are the rules. So I don't know what they would do, but I think perhaps it would just give too much fuel to the conversation that this was strictly a time issue.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we disagree on something already.
Yeah, we
rarely disagree on things.
On that one.
All right. Moving on, but staying on Chris Bryant, your over-under on Chris Bryant home runs this season, and that comes from Chris. Pacoda projects 27 in 464 plate appearances, so I guess he didn't give us an over-under, Chris didn't, so let's set the over-under there. So Pacoda says 27, Let's go 27.
I'm going to take the under on that.
I'm going to take the over. I put him at 31.
I was thinking like, oh, there's, he's a rookie. He's not going to hit like 30 some home runs, and I was thinking like, well, what other, like, I wonder who has the record for most rookie home runs. I looked it up and it was Mark McGwire with like 49 or 47 or something. I was like, oh crap. Well, I guess it is possible. I'm going to go under 2. I'm going to predict. I mean, let's make a prediction. You said 30, Kurt?
I said 31.
31. I'm going to guess 24.
I'll go with
And I will say my
26.
number is a little bit skewed probably with the fact that I'm still drunk on the fact that he just kept hitting home runs like crazy in spring training. I mean, my
Right.
goodness. If you count the B games, he had like over 10. I think he had 10 or 11. So,
Yeah. Well, as somebody pointed out on Twitter today, perhaps it was Bleacher Nation, so did Jake Fox.
true, but Jake Fox is not Chris Bryant.
That's a great point you make there.
I can't argue that point. And then Chris follows that up with your over-under on how many times my name will be said on the podcast this season, and he set the over-under at 0.5. So,
Well,
and
if
he's
you count
cleared
this as this season, we've already gone over. So I'm going to take the over.
I'll take the over on that.
Yeah, me too.
We got one.
Brock, who is at Brock UU Ilson, so the U's kind of look like a W. He says over/under is on Bryant Dingers off the new jumbotron, and he sets it at 5.5, 5.5.
I'm going to take under.
Under.
Yeah, I took the under. And we have more jumbotron stuff coming up. So let's move on to Javier Baez. By the way, he's starting in Iowa. I don't think we
Yeah,
talked
you know
about
it's funny that you and I did that episode, and we were like, yeah, it looks like he's going to be in Chicago.
Right.
It's
We've been
looking
saying
pretty
for
good.
like 2 months. Yep, he's starting in Iowa. He's starting in Iowa. And then last episode,
Do
we
one
were like,
episode.
we had like a 180 where it's like, well, I guess not. I guess he's starting with the Cubs. And then the
Our
next
sources
day,
tell us.
right, the next day,
Yeah.
they announce he's going to Iowa.
I know. I listened to that episode after that announcement, and I was like, this is not good. I sound like an idiot. As usual.
Which, you know what? That's that's one good thing about doing 2 episodes a week now, is that it doesn't have to sit there for an entire week. We can correct ourselves. I mean, it really did look like he was. I mean, the rumors were that he was starting with the Cubs, and I mean, it was kind of going back and forth a little bit. But if you went off what Joe Madden said at one point, it seemed like he was going to, and we spent that last week's episode, talking about why they would have him start
Well,
with
and
the
we did-
Cubs, and
We did also point out, though, like based purely on numbers, it looked like he could use some time in Iowa. So at least we had
Right.
that going for us.
and we had been saying it for the previous like 6 weeks that we thought he would start in Iowa. So Jeremy says how many days until Baez is up, and then Steve says Major League games played by Javier Baez, and he sets the over/under at 30. So rather than days, of him being called up or trying to pick a date, let's just say how many games. Let's go with Steve's and do games played, and over/under is 130.
Games played at Baez 130.
Yeah.
I go under.
I also go under. I think Baez gets on track by mid-May. I think he could get called up, sometime in mid-May, late May, maybe, perhaps. And so I think maybe like 115 to 120 games.
Yeah, I mean, just to put a date out there, I put him at like early June. That road series, they start June 1 on the road, a really long road series. Somewhere in that series, I put him coming up in early June.
So you would be more around 100 games then.
Yeah, and that's, not counting days off, I guess, but
Yeah, that's kind of where I stand too. I mean, I think I think I would agree with Andy if he's like really tearing it up and just, obviously destroying. But I don't have his stats in front of me, but didn't he hit like in Iowa when he was there, didn't he hit like 265 or something like that?
That sounds right.
And that was after a really slow start,
Right.
And then picked it up. So
Right. I don't know. I don't think he's going to get 130 games in at the major league level this season. So I'll go the under. I'll take the under too.
and even if he's up, way before that June, just given the second base options, like with La Stella getting a start here and there, I think he.
Yeah, although I think if
He's a
once
good
they
one,
bring
too.
him up, I think he's going to play.
Yeah, I think so too. But he's still going to get off days more often than like a Castro and Rizzo, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so this next one comes from Patrick, who is at the Toughest on Twitter, and Patrick says prediction on how many runners Baez will strand on base this season. So Andy, you were able to find how many he's left on base in 2014, right?
Yeah, I think so. I figured 106.
Did you add them all up?
No, if you go to Baseball Reference, it tells you there's a statistic that shows you how many times he came to bat with runners on base, and then how many runners scored.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't
So-
find exactly where it said runners left on base for a season. I couldn't find that stat anywhere other than what you're saying. I did.
I'm
see
glad that
but-
you shared that number because I had no idea.
So you
And
said
I was
106.
Way below.
But you got to
that.
keep in mind the sample size. I guess would be a little bit smaller based on the fact that we think that he'll play more games this season than he did last year.
Right. So if he had 106, he did that. He left that many runners on base in 52 games and 229 plate appearances.
That seems impossible.
That's impossible.
Like, That's. I don't know. Maybe it's just my head not wrapping around this, but that seems like a really high number.
It could be that I messed up and I'm totally wrong. Yeah, that is always a strong possibility.
Right, but you know what? Here's the deal. I don't think you are wrong because in 2014 with runners on, Baez hit 124. With runners in scoring position and 2 outs, he hit .087.
That's not bad. It's a B. That's a B, isn't it? A B plus almost.
You're only 3% from an A.
I think.
So what
he
are we
strands-
predicting? Are we just picking a number, or do we have an over/under?
I don't even know where to begin with this.
I
don't
think
either.
I'm guessing he strands 150 to 160.
Oh man, that's a lot.
Does that sound like a
Well,
lot?
let's say this. Okay.
I think
where
if
should
he
we
starts
set?
training, if he gets to 100, they're like, screw this. Like he's,
He did that
we're
in a
moving him
third of the
down in the
season.
lineup.
Yeah.
Huh?
He did that. in
I just
a
don't
third
think
of the
he
se-
gets the opportunity to strand that many. That's my guess. Because you've got a much stronger
That's a good
power
point.
lineup. You don't need him to be in that spot anymore. He can
Right.
hit 7th. You don't care.
I don't know. Okay, let's set it. Where did you say, Andy? 160?
106. Or I mean, I said like 150 maybe.
I'd say, maybe you could put the over/under at 106, or this is just so hard because it's not a stat we've ever.
But he did that in 52
Encountered.
games. I think we have to
Yeah.
go significantly higher than that. Let's say one.
Want to do 130?
No, I think it's well. I mean, we can. I'm taking the over. If that's where we set it. Well, let's set it at 150.
I'm going under because, like I said, I don't think he gets the opportunity. They move him down in the lineup before, if he's not hitting runners in key positions,
Yeah, that's pretty reasonable.
especially if you got Rizzo in the 2-hole.
I'll take under 150 too. Also.
I'm gonna go over. That way, at least we don't all guess the same thing on every one. But I think if he had 106 in 52 games, which is a third of the season, let's say he plays 100. I don't think he's going to do it at the clip that he did this year, but I think the Cubs are also going to get on base more this year.
And just leave more on base.
We get on base, there's just going to be a ton LOBs.
I
A ton of
I do have
LOBs.
a brief note to future Michael Sorry about this one.
Yeah. Oh my
Good
gosh,
luck.
some of these are so hard. They're going to be so hard too.
Future Michael is cursing us.
Like,
right
like
now.
what about the homers off the jumbotron? We're gonna have to have like tallies. Like we should.
Keep
You should
track
get a
of some
piece
of
of
these
wood
things.
and just carve a tally mark into it every time you see one.
That'll be my notch in my bedpost as a dinger off the board.
Daddy's just whittling again.
All right, moving on. Let's see. Okay, so I guess while we're on the topic of young players being called up to the big league team, Jason, who is at Baseball Rights, we met him at Cubs convention. Nice guy. He says over/under on Addison Russell's debut, and he sets it at September 1st. So.
Okay. I think.
Corey, wait. Let's let Corey go first.
Okay, go ahead, Corey.
Okay. I'm gonna guess after, I suppose. I think the Addison Russell situation will be really interesting. I think everybody's kind of distracted by Bryant right now, and Bryant is exciting, but Russell kind of completes this lineup, and so I think that if they could do what they're doing with Bryant and wait till a month or so into the season next year. But I think if this team is competitive and they're in it, I think Russell will be a huge addition to the lineup in a playoff push. But I think it will be a September call-up, and I don't think it'll happen before September 1st.
Yeah, I would generally.
I think if the
yeah,
Cubs
I would.
I think if the Cubs are not making a playoff push, then I don't think we'll see Russell.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I think it's after September 1st. Although, man, he looks so good. It's like that hurts to say because I would love to see him sooner, but I think it's after September 1st. They want him in Iowa for most of a full year, I think.
Right, and he only played 50 games in Tennessee, so I think he splits the entire season between. Well, I mean,
He's starting in Iowa.
He's starting in Iowa. I think he plays a full season there too. So I think he's a September call-up as well.
Just shows you that Theo only cares about the Iowa Cubs.
Yeah.
So you guys both said after.
Mm-hmm.
So we all agree.
Well, that's one I'd love to be wrong about, like that something happens where, they're playing well and they have to call him up.
Yeah.
But it definitely makes you have to make some decisions about all these short steps.
Craig, who is at MWL Traveler, Midwest League Traveler, he says first player to homer off the new scoreboard in left field.
I like this one.
My pick is Jorge Soler.
Yeah, same.
Huh. I'm going to guess Baez.
So you don't think it happens
I don't think it'll happen until
summer?
Yep.
Wow, prognosticator of all prognosticators.
And this one's tough because I've dimensions of the board and how high it is, but until you see it in person, it's hard to
Right.
say.
And that's
It because if you think about it being well above the bleachers, you're talking about something that would, if the thing weren't there, it would hit one of the rooftop buildings.
right.
It would. So I don't know. It's hard to say. It's this is just a shot in the dark. I don't know if it'll get hit. Is this going to be as hard to hit as the center field scoreboard? Not quite.
I feel like just looking at pictures, it looks like it'll be almost flush with the very top of the bleachers. Don't you guys think?
No, it's not. It's
Or
higher.
it's okay.
higher.
All right.
I'll just say this. I'm watching the Cubs exhibition game right now against the Diamondbacks, and although I'm sitting across the room and the TV is small, I believe Travis Wood just hit a home run. So maybe Travis Wood will be the first person to hit one off the board. I think he just hit a pinch hit home run or something. I could be completely off. No, I'm looking in the chat. It was him. Okay.
He's a freak.
This is not an HD TV, and it's 20 feet away from me. I saw a beard and assumed it was him. Yeah, so I'm going to say Baez. You guys both said Soler, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the next question also involves the Jumbotron. Jason, who's in the chat, says number of home runs to hit off the Jumbotron. So the number for the season.
I would assume we're just talking about Cubs to hit a homer off
Yeah, let's do that.
off of the Big Daddy. We got to come up with a nickname for it.
Really, I think it's kind of hard to say because, as we were just saying, it is high and it's not right down the line, and so it's kind of like pretty far into left center. And this is a hit that would have to have some. A lot of the balls that we see hit out of the ballpark tend to be not towards center field. So I think this would have to have some major distance on it. And I was looking at a picture today, and you're right. We've only seen a couple of pictures of it up, and we haven't seen it in person yet. But I don't know. I'm gonna guess like 2, maybe.
That's
This season.
exactly what I wrote down as 2.
I'll take 4. I'm gonna go 4.
Boy, I felt optimistic at 2. I felt like, boy,
Right.
it could be 0.
So you're just calling me a total idiot then?
Yes, yeah.
You're just calling me Candide.
That's already been established, so I don't think I need to say it.
I just I don't know if you guys saw Soler's homer on what was it, Wednesday, where it was just a frozen rope line drive to the berm. They got multiple guys that can hit homers like that are just insane line drives. So I don't think 4 is totally crazy.
But if they're hitting line drive home runs, it's not going to hit that board. This has got to be like a Baez moonshot, which is why I picked.
But what I'm saying though is a line drive home run exhibits power that is capable of Glen Allen Hill hitting the top of a roof.
I think there were some other things involved with that too, contributing to that. I don't know. I think it's going to be hard to say until we actually see it like live in a game, see exactly where that thing is, how high up it starts.
But you're right about not a lot of Waveland hits. Not a lot of balls going out, in like left center. They're more like
right down the line or
right,
pretty close to it. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so we got a few here from Brian, who is at Cubs_corner on Twitter. Number of All-Stars, and the over/under is 2.
I'm gonna guess 3. I'm just gonna go with what they had 2 last year, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with 3.
And I was gonna push at 2.
That's what I'm doing too. I have Castro and Rizzo still. Andy is your third. Would that be like Lester?
Well, yeah, you could see like maybe Lester or Arrieta or maybe like a Montero even. And who knows, maybe even one of the youngsters, maybe Soler makes a surprise appearance.
Yeah. I could also see I could see it easily going to like a 3 because they're going to get so much attention and hype, and
that's
that
true.
So strongly affects all-star voting.
That's a good
point.
Easily
go 3, but
that is a good point. I'm gonna stick with 2.
Lester and one other position player.
I'm going to go with Castro and Rizzo still. Number of closers, over/under 2. Now,
this I need
clarification on. Well, I think we might want to move this because if we're going to go on players that earned saves, last year there were 5 Cubs players that earned saves. So I would guess
someone named the closer though. That's different.
Right, and so I don't know. Yeah, how do you guys want to do it? Should we?
I would say named closers. I think that's.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because
I don't
a
like
lot of guys get saves.
Well, let's do this. Let's say number of players earned. Named closer is like. I don't know. That's just a title, and somebody that they say like they could say, oh yes, this person is our closer, but we're not going to use them to close games for the next couple weeks. I don't know.
Well, I suppose you're right. It would be easier to predict players who earn
let's do
save.
Players who earn saves, and we'll bump it from 2 up to 4.
I'm gonna go under on that.
Yeah, I go under too. I'm gonna say three. Three players earn saves. A little
Two
more
or three.
stability back there, maybe.
I'm gonna. Yeah, I'll go with that too. I'm gonna say. You know what? No, I'm not going to. I'm gonna push. I'm gonna say 4. That there are 4 players that earn saves.
Really sticking our necks
Sometimes
out there on these.
What's that?
I said we're really sticking our necks out there on these predictions.
Well, they're hard.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so the next one
is hard.
It's hard.
The next one is no, it's not. The next one is over-unders covered in this episode. No. The next one is extra innings wins, and he set the over-under at 3.
Over?
I'm going to say over because they had 8 last year.
Yeah.
They had 8 wins in extra innings?
They were 8 and 10 last year in extra innings.
Wow. Yeah, I got to take over.
Except they're going to be kicking everybody's ass so much they don't go into extra innings.
Yeah, right.
Should have been like a number of 10-run wins. 10. 120 maybe? I don't know. Take an over under on that.
Okay, Jason has another one here. Number of pitchers used for the entire season. So putting that into context.
Clarification on this one.
Okay, so last year the Cubs used 27 pitchers.
Okay, so we're talking total pitchers.
If somebody got into a
bullpen.
game, if somebody got registered a pitch, they
I'm
count.
not prepared for this then.
So let's set the over under 24. Last year was 27.
Under?
Last year was 27 or 26.
Last year was 27 is what I have, but
Okay.
I also counted by hand, so it could very easily be 26.
I'm going under.
Yeah, I got to go under too.
No. Okay, so the over under is 24.
Oh, I see.
I'm still under.
I'll go under also.
Yeah, I'm under. I just think there's going to be a lot more stability with the
Yeah.
pitching staff this year, and we're not going to see. I don't imagine that we're going to see trades of 40 or 60% of the starting rotation like we've seen in previous years, and hopefully injuries stay away. So, okay, so I have one in here that I'm adding, and it's kind of based on the saves and closers and everything. Over under on Rondon saves, and he had 29 in 2014. So let's set the over under at 30.
I'm going to take under on that.
Yes.
I think, though, just under 27, 28, something like that.
Boy, taking the words out of my mouth. I said under at 28.
I think he'll start in the minors.
Being such a high draft pick.
There's an edit point.
No, why? Just leave it.
I think over. I already forgot. What did you guys say?
Under.
Okay.
We
I'm
both
saying
said
over.
27, 28-ish. I said 28, Andy
I'm
said.
saying over. I mean, I think as long as he stays healthy, I think he should have and pitches well. I think he'll have more save opportunities. So I'm going to say over.
Yeah, that's another one where I really hope I'm wrong.
Right.
I hope he's really solid all year and gets like 40.
Tom says total iTunes reviews by October and total number of Bert and Ernie jokes. And what a great opportunity for us to encourage listeners to leave iTunes reviews. So celebrate opening day and opening night by writing us an iTunes review. It helps other Cubs fans find the podcast, and it helps our ranking in iTunes, and they make us feel so good. So how many by October? And we just have to guess a number.
Jeez.
23.
I'll go under 23. I'll come in at 18.
Wow, I'm going way under that. I'm thinking 13.
13.
I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things that once people leave us a review, they're done. And we've
Sure.
gotten
And
we've
we
gotten a
certainly
lot.
won't get 23 new listeners this year.
Good point.
Never.
Owned.
So maybe I didn't take that. Maybe I didn't take increased listenership into account. I'm sticking with 13. I'm just going with it, and I'm hoping to be proven wrong. Bert and Ernie jokes. I'm going to say 0, and that does not count as a joke.
Well, at least one, because somebody's going to have listened to this. And
I don't believe we've ever made a Bert and Ernie joke, have we? We make Bert jokes.
Us making Bert and Ernie jokes, or Bert and Ernie jokes in the reviews?
I have no idea.
Is Where's Bert already a Bert and Ernie joke? You have
I
to
don't-
say Ernie?
Moving on. Dawn, who is at Sunnyers. I don't know how to say that. Sunnyers. I always see it, but I don't know how to say it. I don't think Twitter handles are meant to be said, are they?
You don't say it out loud to yourself over and over again?
Oh, look, I got a tweet from Sunnyers. No, I say that's Dawn. She says, how many no-hitters will Arrieta take into the 7th inning or later? And she sets the over-under at 4. So what did he have, 3 last year? 3 or 4?
3 or 4.
Yeah, I think for sure
I think it was
3.
3. I'm taking under at 2.
Yeah, I'm going under 3.
I'm going under 1.
No.
I mean, that's an accomplishment to take a no-hitter into the 7th. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a real common occurrence. So,
That's for Jake Arrieta.
well, that's true. It was last year. Steve says, positions played by Alcantara over under at 4.5. So in 2014, I believe he only played second base and center field. This year in spring training, we saw him play shortstop and third, in addition to second base and center field.
I don't know. I think under and at 4. I think
Exactly.
third, second, center, and one other outfield position.
I think 4, but I think he'll get a third base, shortstop, second base, and center.
Yeah, I think I'm going under 2. I think he's going to play mainly second and center. Shortstop, maybe if something happens with Castro before Baez comes up. And then, I mean, I kind of think as long as Olt's playing okay until Bryant comes up or whatever they decide to do there, I don't know how much we'll see him at third base. And to me, I don't really see him in like a corner outfield spot. I don't know. I mean, I think he has the flexibility to be used everywhere, so I guess it's possible that they could just need him to fill in somewhere. Or is it substitution or something? I don't know, something, but I'm gonna go under. Jason from New Mexico says over under on the number of times Madden uses a pitcher as a pinch hitter, and he says the over under is 19.5.
It seems like a lot to me.
Yeah, me too.
So I would probably say under.
I'm guessing he will use Wood quite a number of times, but I still don't think he gets to the 19.5. I'm going to go under also.
Yeah, I think under. Same thing. I think it'll be Travis Wood hitting if he's on the team. If Travis Wood is not on the team, I think it would be definitely under.
This just in, Travis Wood got named the 5th starter. I don't know if you guys saw that today.
Oh,
I did not see that officially,
well,
but
I guess I meant like if he stays on the team.
right.
You know,
Okay.
if they don't. No. I knew he was. Yeah, I just meant if he gets traded at some point, like towards the beginning of the season.
Okay. I thought you thought Edwin Jackson still had a chance at getting the 5th one.
No. Although Jackson did make the team. Oddly.
Yeah.
He'll be in the bullpen.
It's hard to pay a guy that much money to.
He'll be ROTT rotting in the bullpen. Speaking of rotting, I saw that Josh Vitters, he signed with the Rockies, and he got into 2 spring training games this year.
2?
Yeah, now I don't know if there was an injury involved or something. I don't know if there was a reason that he only got into 2, but when you look at some of the players that got into at least 2 Cubs spring training games, it kind of puts it into perspective.
Yeah.
Unless there was an injury. I don't know. Okay, Jason says total number of players to hit the 25-man roster this year. And he says in parentheses, or you can include September call-ups. He says over-under is 39.5, not including September call-ups.
I'm going to take the under 39.5.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna go just slightly over, like 40, 42.
Okay. I'm going to go under. So that's the one that Kurt will beat us on, and we'll win it all. Tom says, how many Edwin Jackson starts? I'm hoping for 0. And Johnny also says, more David Ross homers or Edwin Jackson starts. So, let's predict how many starts Edwin Jackson will have.
Go ahead, Corey.
I'm going to guess that David Ross has 2 home runs this season, and I think there will be 1 Edwin Jackson start.
I predict 2 Jackson starts and 1 Ross home run.
Oh man, okay. I predict 2 to 3 Edwin Jackson starts. I think somebody. Oh man, I don't even want to say the I word, but I think that he'll get a couple starts, but I think David Ross hits more homers. I think he hits 4 or 5.
That seems really optimistic to me.
Good.
Well, what didn't he have? I think he had 3 last year, didn't he?
Enjoy.
But he wasn't on a roster with 3 catchers.
Well, that won't happen.
That's not gonna last.
No.
No, but
Okay.
I saw him hit one in spring training. I feel pretty good.
Bobby says Castro batting average over under 290. And I think he hit 292 last year. I don't have it in front of me. I think that's what he hit last year.
this one I'm kind of going out on a limb here, I guess. Maybe I'm not. But I think Castro doesn't do well with all this new young talent, and I think he doesn't totally slump, but I think he's under 290, like in the 275 to 280 range, which is still pretty good, but
Yeah.
I think he starts. I don't know. Castro to me doesn't seem like he's gonna love all the attention being on everybody else, and it's gonna hurt him.
Like he's gonna
Well-
sulk.
Yeah.
So you're saying he's not gonna use it as a motivator?
No. No. What is a motivator to Starlin Castro?
He certainly doesn't need to play like more comfortably. Like he doesn't.
Doesn't need to relax more.
Yeah, he doesn't need to. Dude, just chill out. Just really, you're just
Stop
so
worrying so much, man.
you're just so high strung. I'm right with you, Kurt. I think under 290. I think he plays something akin to his 2012 season, in which he hit 283. So I'm gonna go under.
Yeah, I'm going under too. Rizzo homers over under 30.
Over. Do I need to say a number? Or just over?
Might as well.
Well, now I'm looking at my number I wrote down, and I feel kind of silly about it, but I guess I just throw it out there. I said 35. Seems really high to me now, but I'm going to stick with it. 35.
I'm gonna take under, just under 28 home runs.
Yeah, I'm going under. I have 28 too.
Wow.
Okay, so who leads the team in home runs?
Well, that my just previous prediction, I hope answers this question. That's why I'm saying Rizzo at 35.
This sounds pretty pessimistic, but I think Rizzo still leads the club with his 28 to 30 home runs.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I guess I think I predicted Bryant at 24, so I think it's probably going to be one of those two guys. Apparently, it's not going to be David Ross.
I think I'll throw in an extra prediction. This one's just off the books. I think there's more than one player to hit over 30.
Wow.
Okay.
Which the funny thing is
That's
like
not a, that's
that
not
seems bold, but like we're not that far removed from guys hitting 50 and 60 and 70 home runs, and like to think two guys with this much power in this lineup to hit over 30 seems a little bit nuts. I know they're young, but
Well, you're right though. I mean, and there's going to be more protection in the lineup, so that's going to have an impact. But yeah, I don't know. I can see it either way.
Let's see here. Benjamin says Montero WAR for the season. Fangraphs predicts a 3.5 for 2015. So let's set the over under at that. So 3.5 WAR.
3 under.
I'm under also.
Yeah, I'm under too. Really mixing it up, aren't we, guys?
I think he's in the twos. I think he's going to be in the twos somewhere.
Yeah, I could see him being. To me, he's between 2 and 3, somewhere in there.
Clint says number of times Lester throws to first. So I assume we're talking pickoff attempts, not throwing
which was
first
like
on a field
one
ball.
ever.
He's fairly bad at controlling the running game, right? As far as I know.
Okay, so Lester literally never checked over to first in 2014. In 2012, he did it 5 times. In 2013, he did it 7 times. So, I guess I don't even know where to set the over under. Let's set it at 5.
If it's 5, that's pretty easy, I think. I don't think that challenges us enough.
Okay,
I say
let's set it
at 3.
At 3.
That's so weird.
But to me, that you actually have to think about that.
Well, he's left-handed.
But
It's so weird for a lefty to not check over more than that. I mean,
0.
it's so easy. I mean, you barely have to flick your wrist and it's over there.
Just roll it. Okay, we can stick with 5, but I go under at 5.
I'll take over. I bet he's all about just getting that running game in check.
He's pitching 4-hour games because all he's doing is throwing to first.
I'm going to take over, too. I think he does it like a surprise. I think he does it 13 times.
Oh, man.
Oh, look out.
It's just so crazy because, like, what other... I mean, okay, it would be like, how many times will Travis Wood throw to first base?
Well, maybe he feels like he should check over more just because of his paycheck. Like he's trying to earn his money.
Or maybe he thinks he doesn't need to check over more because of his paycheck.
That's a good point.
Yeah, but
Jason
he's
in
like,
the chat.
screw that. I'm not getting paid to throw to first.
Jason in the chat says that he thinks he does it 4 times in the first game just to prove he can. Which I kind of thought about that. I was actually going to predict that he did it. He did 1 on Sunday night's game.
Well, John, if you're listening, keep me under 5 so I can win this.
Who's John? Jason?
John Lester?
Oh, John.
Okay. Jon.
I was like,
John.
Wow.
I was like, the question came from Clint. Jason weighed in. Who the hell is John?
He
He's
listens.
probably listening.
I tweeted at him. He's listening. So I've cooked a book on this one. I'm going to be banned from the Hall of Fame, Pete Rose style.
Plus, he's gonna listen to it on Sunday before the start, just to.
Right.
Yes. Well, this
Yeah,
will
that's
be
why
out
we're recording this
tomorrow.
on Friday night.
So he's going to check over a bunch of times on Sunday night just to get that number up.
Okay, so this next one is maybe my favorite for this entire episode, and the one that I probably did the most research on. This comes from Chris, and is over under number of ejections for Madden. He sets it at 2.5. So I've never heard much about Madden being ejected or arguing with umpires, so I looked into this a little bit. Knowing how unique Joe is, and figuring there must be some good stories, and indeed there is. Have you guys looked into this at all?
No.
But
Okay.
I do have my. I thought of it long enough to make a prediction, but that's it.
So he typically employs a more caring approach to his encounters with umpires. He was once ejected for telling an umpire he loved him. However, I think my favorite Madden ejection was when, so Matt Garza is pitching for the Rays. He was called for a balk, and managers are not allowed to argue balks. So Madden, he comes out to the pitcher's mound, looks at Garza, and is yelling and arguing with the umpire. But because he was looking at Garza, he claimed he was yelling at Garza. And I watched the video, and it is hilarious. He comes out and kind of yells a couple things at the umpire. The umpire yells a little bit at him, and then he just looks at Garza and just starts screaming, but like kind of yelling it out the side of his mouth towards the umpire, but his eyes stay on Garza. It was hilarious. And then in a game in Chicago against the White Sox, Madden was ejected, and then he pulled a Carlos Zambrano and took it upon himself to eject the umpire from the game. Then he went a step further and ejected all of the umpires from the game. Pointed to each one of them and kicked each one of them out. And I noticed in reading that there were a couple people that had written about his ejections, and he has a move that he does that kind of indicates he knows he's going to be kicked out of a game, and it's kind of like his it almost seems like kind of his move that he makes if he's trying to get kicked out, like he's going out there to argue. So he does, and this is kind of more for the video people, but he kind of does this thing. Like he spreads his arms apart kind of like in disgust or whatever, and I guess when he does that, then he's going to argue enough to get kicked out. But I don't know. I think it's amazing. I think the umpire said something about how he's never had to kick a manager out for the manager telling him that he loved him. Because I think the manager told him not to say one more thing, and he said, "I love you."
Dude, you don't have to give me more reasons to look forward to the season.
Oh man.
Well, that said, I take over 2.5 because I remember this conversation about Ricky last year, and we're like one, no,
Right.
and he ended up he was like the first one ejected, and he ended up being in the lead for a while.
Yeah, I'm over also.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to guess under.
What?
Wow,
He's at the
2.5. That's almost.
I'm going to say he
nothing.
gets kicked out twice.
Really caring approach.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just making
He
a
might
guess.
actually kiss some this year, and that'll get him ejected.
Okay, so then Nick from Wisconsin says over under on dugout hot feet. I'll say it'll be 18.5, and then Madden himself will be responsible for at least one. I don't think the three of us have any clue what dugout hot feet means.
Wait, you don't? I'm gonna go over on that. I think it's gonna be over 18.5, and I think Madden himself will be responsible for, I don't know, 2 to 3 really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What was that, Andy?
I agree with Andy.
You guys are so full of it.
But yeah, I'm pretty much just count me down for the same as Andy.
I'm going under. And Michael gets to decide what the heck dugout hot feet is when he goes to tally the points in October.
Yeah.
And Jamie says the amount of bandwagon hoppers claiming they always supported the Cubs.
Too many.
Yeah. I think this is it's going to be an interesting season. There will, there are the fans that I think will judge the front office and the rebuild on this season. And because of that, I think expectations for this season are way too high. And unfortunately, I think if we end up with a 500 team, a lot of fans are going to see that as a failure.
I think you're right. Yeah. Yeah, there'll be a lot of people jumping on and then jumping right back off.
Yeah. Jason in the chat says that he guesses what dugout hot feet would be. He guesses it's lighting shoelaces on fire. Just a guess, he says. So I think the over-under is way too high for that.
If it's 18.5, there's problems.
Yeah. Okay, so let's kind of wrap everything up here. Total Cubs wins in 2015. Jason from New Mexico, a few people just kind of added it in. Jason from New Mexico says 88 wins. Scott says 85. So where are you guys at? What do you think? Total wins for the 2015 Cubs?
This is one I don't want to go first on.
Well, I'll go first. I'll say 86 and 76.
I'm kind of jumping around. I have been really for the last 2 months. I kind of jump between 82 and 86. I'm going to say 83 wins.
Gosh, Corey, that's what I had. Yeah. 83 and 79.
I think the most recent Pacoda projections are 85.
But I mean, and I say that 83 and 79 to me is pretty good. I mean,
well, it's a big improvement over last year.
Was it 7? How many did they win last year? Oh gosh.
Yeah, I think it was 73. I think.
So 73 last year. So a 10-win improvement in the year. I think that's pretty good, given the age of the team. But yeah, I think they're 83. They're mid-pack in the Central. They start to look like they're going to win. They might be in contention for the wild card late July, but they never actually really make a serious push. There's my full season prediction.
I think that's really possible. I mean, the crazy thing is that this is what makes it so hard to predict is just it's young players, and I've said this a couple times, and I said it on Channel 8. They were they kind of wanted an answer from me on how they do, and I was just like, well, it's so, who knows? I mean, young players can come out and play, make a lot of mistakes, and not play very well, and that's totally understandable given their age. On the other hand, young players can come out and be too stupid to lose and just win. I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's so hard to predict.
Yeah.
Jeremy in the chat says 89 wins. That seems high to me, but
89 is a wild card spot to me. You're in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I mean, if that happened, I would not be shocked, given the firepower on the team. If Bryant comes up, plays the way, I mean, obviously, if he plays like he did in spring training, then he's out of his mind. But I mean, he could come up and play well. Baez could figure it out. Soler could do what Soler does. Castro and Rizzo. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked at 89 wins.
Yeah, and that's the kind of crazy thing. It's 83 to 89. It's not a huge gap. I mean, it is significant, but I think the worst part about 83, 84, 85 wins somewhere in there where you just miss a wild card. Maybe a wild card. Maybe you guess it's at 87, 88 wins, something like that. People are going to be crazy about Bryant not being there opening day, all that kind of crap. People are just going to be stupid.
It's all right.
I say that as if they can if they narrowly miss the playoffs because and then they didn't bring Bryant, they didn't because they didn't bring Bryant up right away. It's like, I mean, if they make the playoffs by a game or something like that, I don't see them making a deep playoff run anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Was that incomprehensible what I just said?
Not entirely. I
I'm guessing
comprehend
you
it.
moved on to your second beer, Andy.
No, I mean, I would probably say third.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, Jason in the chat, he says that he thinks they'll be the first team out of the playoffs. So, meaning they just missed the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think that's like you just said, Corey. Like, kind of that's where we are. Like, any of these scenarios are completely plausible.
Right.
But if we had to pinpoint a prediction, I go not quite as good as everybody else thinks.
Yeah. So those were all of our predictions. We would like to know what your predictions are for each of these topics. We'll have them all listed in the show notes for this episode at ivnb.com. So if you want to you can just tell us how many games you think the Cubs will win this year. That'd be cool. Or you can leave us your predictions for all of these topics in the comments. And in October you'll be able to say, "See, I knew it. I knew."
Somebody back me up. Somebody back me up on David Ross homers.
Yeah. And the whatever the dugout hot feet is. That too. All right, so this week's episode was I'm going to start over again. Sorry, guys. Volume turned down on my end. All right, here we go. So this week's episode was brought to you by our Patreon supporters. A big thanks to our Hall of Fame level contributors, Jeremy, Dave, Dallas, Charles, Steven, Stewart. Is Stewart on there? Hold on a second. Stewart. Why do I not recognize that name?
Smalley?
All right, hold on a second. Who the hell is Stewart?
Ian Stewart?
No, it's like Stuart. I wrote this. How did I? No, hold on. Steven Stewart. Steven. Oh yeah, there is a Stewart. He's new. Hold on a second. I'm sorry. Oh yeah. Okay, he's new this week. Here's the bad thing. I did all my show prep. I did all my notes and everything, and the document disappeared. I saved it, and then I shut down the computer, restarted it, and I went to open it up, and it was gone. So I had to redo all my stuff.
Sounds like a typical excuse I hear on a daily basis at school.
No, really.
Oh, it happened.
So excited.
That's how well I know our Patreon contributors, though. I was like, wait a minute, I do not recognize that name. It's somebody from Missouri. Kind of Cardinal country. All right, here we go. This week's episode was brought to you by our Patreon supporters. A big thank you to our Hall of Fame level contributors: Jeremy, Dave, Dallas, Charles, Steven, Stewart, Jane, Cass, Tony, Shane, Michael, John, Brian, Richard, Craig, and Rick. Our associate producers are Matthew Macer, Anthony Hutfels, Joshua Hansen, Ryan Shores, and Jason Nunn. We had a few people jump on the Patreon campaign this week. Javen Maynard from Flagstaff, Arizona, and Javen also emailed me this week, and it was nice to talk with him. And also Stewart. Oh God, sorry. Son of a bitch.
Usually happens at the beginning of the episode.
I know, because I'm gonna add it. I've been giving people's last names when they like the associate producers, and when people first start, I give their last names, and I I said Stewart, and then I couldn't remember what his last name was. So one more time. This week's episode was brought to you by our Patreon supporters. A big thank you to our Hall of Fame level contributors, Jeremy, Dave, Dallas, Charles, Steven, Stewart, Jane, Cass, Tony, Shane, Michael, John, Brian, Richard, Craig, and Rick. Our associate producers are Matthew Macer, Anthony Hutfels, Joshua Hansen, Ryan Shores, and Jason Nunn. We had a few people jump on the Patreon campaign this week. Javen Maynard from Flagstaff, Arizona. Javen also emailed me this week. It was nice to talk with him. And also Stuart Knight from Baldwin, Missouri. So it's nice to get a Patreon supporter from Cardinal Country down there in Missouri. That's nice. Or it could be Royals Country. I'm not sure where Baldwin is. So listener support through Patreon helps us pay the bills. And the second show each week that we'll be doing this year and the new daily podcast are made possible by this support. Patreon is like Kickstarter, and it allows listeners to support on a monthly basis. Monthly support levels start at $1 a month, and there are perks at every level. And if you like the idea of us doing a second show each week and you're looking forward to the daily Northside recap and you haven't jumped on the Patreon campaign, now is the time. It helps us make IVMV better for everyone, and if everyone that listens to this podcast gave just $1 a month, we would be able to do all sorts of cool stuff. So go to patreon.com/IVNV. It's patreon.com/IVNV and check it out. So here we are, folks, the 2015 season. I'm so excited. This year is just going to be a blast. You know, our first 6 years of podcasting on the Cubs were not the most exciting at the big league level. And because of that, I just think this year is going to be so much fun. If the team ends up at 500, we will be the most excited podcast for a 500 team that has ever existed. Just because we've been through so much, you know, as fans of this team. And now's the time to have fun. And let's get it started against the Cardinals. You know, a team that we're going to have to unseat here in the next few years. And if you found our podcast in the off season, thanks so much for finding us. If you have friends or coworkers that are Cubs fans, we would love it if you would tell them about our podcast. And now is the perfect time to share us with people right here at the beginning of the season. Be sure that you subscribe to the Daily Northside Recap. This week I will be recapping the Cubs games and then previewing the rosters for the Cubs minor league teams. And if you would like an IVMV shirt, they are 20% off from now until the end of the first series with the Cardinals. So go to ivmv.com/store and use the coupon code 2015. That's 2015. So thank you for listening and downloading, and until the midweek episode, go Cubs.